Discover the incredible transformation, cold billionaire exposed to his maid's heartwarming dance. Ethan Clarke stood in the grand foyer of his opulent mansion, the clinking ice in his glass the only sound breaking the heavy silence. Outside, the sun set over manicured lawns and perfectly arranged flower beds, while inside, his life felt more like a gilded cage than a sanctuary. His countless accolades and billion-dollar empire had earned him respect, but they had cost him the warmth of companionship. He was alone, surrounded by luxury yet devoid of joy. In stark contrast was Maria, the maid who was as radiant as the summer sky. A 30-year-old immigrant from Mexico, her days were spent restoring the shine to Ethan's extravagant estate. But beyond her work was a dream, one that flickered in the depths of her heart. She longed to dance, to honor her father's legacy as a proud veteran through the upcoming community talent show. Each day while polishing the silverware, she envisioned her performance, each step filled with heartfelt emotion, determination, and hope, the very essence of the American dream. As the talent show approached, Maria could practically taste the sweet note of freedom. "It's not just a dance," she confided in her friend, echoing the sentiments she had shared late at night, in quiet moments. "It's a tribute to him." Yet Ethan, entrenched in his own world of profits and business deals, scoffed at the event as a frivolity, seeing it as a distraction rather than an opportunity to impact the lives of veterans in need. A tense confrontation erupted one afternoon as the sun poured through the opulent windows. Frustrated by Ethan's indifference, Maria found herself voicing her passion. "You don't understand what this means to me," she exclaimed, her voice sharper than expected. "You hide behind your walls, but life isn't about money. It's about connection, hope, dreams." Those words cracked something deep within Ethan. Suddenly, the facade of cold ambition slipped as Maria, overcome with emotion, found herself in an impromptu dance, a raw, visceral performance that embodied her struggle, her heritage, and the very essence of her spirit. Enraptured, Ethan watched as the beauty of her culture unfolded through every movement, her feet telling tales of resilience, heartache, and longing. Unbeknownst to them, a hidden camera recorded the moment, capturing emotions that resonated far beyond the mansion's walls. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the clip went viral, it stirred empathy in Ethan, forcing him to grapple with emotions he had long buried beneath layers of wealth. Conversations about social inequality sparked among his elite peers, flipping his world upside down. At the talent show, the rift between him and Maria widened when they came face to face again. The stark differences in their lives were a painful reminder of what Ethan had overlooked for too long. As the event approached, pressure mounted, and amid the chaos, a crisis threatened its success. For the first time, Ethan was faced with a critical choice: to retreat into his bubble, or embrace the warmth of his community. The stage was set, the lights blared against the darkness, and the audience eagerly awaited Maria's performance, each heartbeat echoing a collective sense of anticipation. The moment had arrived when Ethan finally stepped outside his cold veneer and rediscover the humanity he had forgotten. The air buzzed with excitement, and as the first notes of music floated through the theater, time seemed to freeze. Would he break free from his chains and join Maria in celebrating the precious connection that wealth could never buy? Ethan stood frozen, the vibrations of the music echoing through him. The moment Maria stepped onto the stage, all the chatter faded away. The spotlight shined bright on her, illuminating her figure as she took a deep breath, her heart racing. He could see the determination in her eyes, a fire ignited by everything she had worked for, everything she longed to express. Ethan felt his stomach twist. 1,000 thoughts rushed through his mind. What if she falters? A wave of protectiveness flooded through him. But then he saw her begin to move, and all doubt slipped away, replaced by an awe that held him captivated. Maria danced with an intensity that transcended the space around her. Each step brought memories flooding back: her father's quiet encouragement, nights spent dreaming of this moment, and the hardships she faced for her family. The fluidity of her movements portrayed not just a dance, but a story filled with love, pain, and hope. The audience was mesmerized. Gasps and cheers erupted as she spun and leaped, clearly lost in her art. An unbreakable bond formed between her and the audience, like they were all on this journey together, experiencing every emotion she poured into her performance. Even Ethan, though physically distant, felt her passion wrapping around him, drawing him in. Every flick of her wrist, every turn of her body, spoke to the emptiness he had carried for so long. The sight of her being so alive stirred something deep within him. He could barely recall the last time he witnessed raw emotion, unfiltered joy. It was beautiful, so beautiful that it hurt. As the performance reached its crescendo, Maria, breathless and glowing, extended her hand towards the crowd. Ethan took a step forward, compelled by an unseen force. He wanted to reach out to her, to offer his support, to connect. But with crowd's applause ringing in his ears, doubt crept back in. There remained an unbridgeable distance, a chasm forged by years of isolation. Suddenly he felt a familiar presence beside him. His best friend, Marcus, discreetly nudged him. "Ethan, you can't just stand here. This is your moment, too. If you want to make a difference, step forward." Marcus's words pierced through Ethan's internal conflict, igniting a spark of courage. Was this his chance to reach out, to embrace change? The thought of Maria gave him strength. He clenched his fists, tightening his grip on the armrest, and with a deep breath, he pushed through the sea of onlookers. As he stepped toward the stage, a hush fell over the crowd, eyes wide with anticipation. Maria's gaze met his, a flicker of surprise blending with excitement. In her expression, he saw vulnerability. She needed him to be there to acknowledge her, to validate all that she had fought for. But a piercing voice broke through his thoughts. "Who does he think he is? She asked just a maid." It was a sneer from one of his elite friends seated in the front row, words dripping with disdain. The pressure mounted. In that moment, Ethan faced an emotional reckoning. Would he succumb to the elitist ignorance, or would he rise and crush the walls that separated him from love and humanity? With every heartbeat, stakes escalated. The eyes of the crowd darted between him and Maria, and the music swelled to a triumphant rhythm. Ethan hesitated, and in that pause, he felt something shift beneath him, an awakening. What would he choose? Would he stand tall against his past? Or would he remain a prisoner of his own making? As his thoughts crystallized, the moments stretched on, phantoms of his hesitations lingering. He took one step forward, then another, but what awaited him on the other side of that stage? Ethan swallowed hard, the weight of his decision pounding in his chest. The little voice in his head urged him to turn back. But with every beat of the drum, with every breath he took, the realization crystallized: he couldn't run away anymore. He took another step. Maria's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and joy flooding her features. The audience seemed to hold its breath, a wave of energy crashing over them, rippling through the hall. Some gasped while others whispered, curious about this unexpected turn of events. With each step closer to her, Ethan could feel the heat radiating from the stage, merging with the intensity of the moment. He was no longer just a silent observer, imprisoned by societal norms that stifled him. He was breaking out, tearing down the walls he had trapped himself behind. Ethan kept moving forward, heart racing in sync with the rhythm of the music. As he reached the edge of the stage, Maria stopped dancing, her body poised between elegance and anticipation. This was his moment, the chance to acknowledge her in front of the crowd. The sneer from his friend faded into the background noise, becoming mere static compared to the warmth in Maria's eyes. They were alive with emotion, and in that gaze, he understood everything. He didn't speak, words felt inadequate. Instead, he extended his hand, palm open, inviting connection. Time stood still as Maria hesitated, uncertainty clouding her face for just a fleeting moment, before reaching out. Fingers brushed lightly against each other, a fragile touch, but it ignited something powerful. The crowd erupted, a wave of applause and cheers enveloping them. But Ethan and Maria were sealed in their own universe, the noise outside but a faint echo. He could almost feel her breath mingling with his, every heartbeat sinking as she took a step towards him with grace that seemed almost divine. With her hand in his, they stood there tethered to each other. It felt like a declaration, a promise that he would no longer hide. The energy between them crackled, igniting an unseen spark. Ethan could sense her fears, her aspirations, pouring into him, washing away the remnants of the past that had held him captive for so long. But even with this raw connection, shadows of doubt lingered in the air. What would the world think? Would he be swept back into the same old life, filled with the narrow-minded judgments of his elite friends? Could he truly break free from expectations? As the music softened, blending into a serene hum, Ethan felt a swell of emotions rising within him. Would he finally have the courage to not just embrace his feelings for Maria but also to confront the people who had shaped his existence? Just as he opened his mouth to speak, intending to declare how he felt, the doors at the back of the auditorium swung open. A figure stepped through, catching Ethan's attention like a distraction from a haunting memory. There stood his father, his expression a mix of surprise and something darker seething disapproval. A chill rushed through him at the sight, grounding him back into reality. His father had never accepted anything less than perfect in his world, and here he was, witnessing Ethan take a step toward a future filled with uncertainty. Ethan's breath caught. What would happen next? Would he choose the familiar chains of his wealthy upbringing, or would he stand strong for what mattered most? The twinkle of hope in Maria's eyes gave him pause, igniting a flicker of defiance he had long buried. Caught between two powerful worlds, Ethan's heart raced. He looked into Maria's eyes, searching for answers in the beautiful depths. He breathed deeply, as if trying to capture every moment in that instant, torn between the love blossoming in front of him and the heavy hand of his past pulling him back. What would he do next? As uncertainty clouded his thoughts, the choice lay heavy in the air, enveloping them both in anticipation. Ethan stood rooted, the chaos around him fading into a surreal background. His father's disdainful glare cut through the applause like a knife, leaving Ethan feeling exposed. The warmth of Maria's hand felt like a lifeline, grounding him amidst the storms swirling within. "Ethan!" His father's voice was sharp, cutting over the remaining cheers. "What do you think you're doing?" The tone held not only surprise but a deep, clenched frustration. With those words, the crowd's energy shifted, uncertainty rippling among them like a whisper through tall grass. They watched, breathless, as the powerful man's presence loomed like a shadow over Ethan and Maria, an unyielding barrier to the world he was beginning to envision. Ethan felt a tremor run through him. His father had always represented a life of expectations, success, and fear of failure. "I'm with her," Ethan stammered, attempting to find confidence in his own voice. He gripped Maria's hand tighter, the warmth spreading through him like a wildfire, urging him to stand strong amidst the freezing doubt. "What will people think?" His father's voice dripped with condescension. "Don't you see how ridiculous this is? You're throwing away your future for a foolish fling." Those words struck deep, but instead of crumbling beneath the weight of his father's contempt, Ethan drew in a breath, pressing it back against the chaos and fear that threatened to overwhelm him. This moment was bigger than him. It was about self-acceptance and breaking free. "I'm not throwing anything away," he said, his voice steadier now. "I'm finally choosing what makes me happy." Maria's eyes widened, reflecting both surprise and admiration. Her smile grew as Ethan's words resonated not just with him, but with the audience. There was something in his declaration, a spark of the truth he'd held back for so long. "We have the right to choose who we love," he added, his heart racing. "It's time to stop being ashamed." The whispers among the crowd grew louder now, morphing into murmurs of support. He saw nods from familiar faces, encouragement igniting like the stage lights swirling around him. Ethan turned back to Maria, her own resolve shining in her eyes. His father's face darkened, disbelief and anger battling for dominance. "This is the worst decision you've ever made, Ethan. You'll regret this." His words, heavy with authority, hung in the air like a threat. But what if I don't? Ethan challenged, the pulse of the moment charging him with newfound courage. What if I finally choose to be myself? To break free from expectations? The sudden shift in dynamics engulfed the auditorium in a tension that could be cut with a knife. Each person felt it like standing on the edge of a cliff where one step could lead them into the unknown. But Ethan wasn't afraid of the leap anymore. He had risked enough in silence. I'm done seeking your approval. I want to live my life with clarity, with passion. He turned towards Maria fully now, drawing in her energy. I want this us. The admission felt like a weight lifted, and the smile that spread across her face was a balm to his raw nerves. Yet, as he stood there, defiant and liberated, a voice echoed within him, amplifying the stakes of his decision. Would his father ever accept him? Would he be banished from the life he had grown up in and the luxury he had always known? The silence held them all, ears attuned to what would come next. The charged air shimmered with unseen possibilities, and the crowd waited, hearts collectively pounding, as expectation hung thick around them. Ethan's gaze flickered between his father's hardened expression and Maria's unwavering faith. What choice would he make amidst the conflict? What future could emerge from this moment of truth? And then, just as determination surged through him, Maria squeezed his hand tightly, whispering words that sparked a new vision in his heart. Let us not look back. Could he truly hold on to that promise? Would love carry him into the unknown, or would fear reclaim him once again? The questions loomed, and all eyes were upon him, waiting to see what path he would choose. Ethan took a moment, caught in the tension that stretched like a tightrope before him. He felt Maria beside him, a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness of his father's fury. Her breath itched, and he knew she was feeling the weight of the eyes upon them, the crowd holding its breath, every heartbeat a drum echoing through the auditorium's stillness. His father's voice raked through the silence again, sharper than before. You're nothing without the family name. You'll ruin everything I've built. A new wave of resolve surged in Ethan. He had grown accustomed to his father's threats, the suggestion that without that name, he was less than. But he was done listening to the toxic words that had threaded through his childhood. No, Ethan said, clarity in his voice he had never felt before. I'm not ruining anything. I'm creating my own future. I won't be your puppet any longer. The realization washed over him like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Somewhere in the audience, he heard a gasp. It slowly morphed into whispers, almost a ripple of support, encouragement that spread like wildfire. He's finally standing up for himself. One person murmured enthusiastically, while another echoed, it's about time. Ethan's heart raced. Despite the anxiety clawing at him, he felt lighter, like he had been anchored down for too long, and now he was free to soar. He turned fully to Maria, her expression bright with admiration and pride, and he let the words tumble out, raw and real. I need to be free, Maria. I need to feel love without fear. The crowd reacted, some nodding in encouragement, a few even breaking into soft cheers. For a moment, he forgot about his father. He focused only on Maria, the way her smile lit up her face, the color of her eyes glimmering with hope. He could escape this moment, but he didn't want to. It was perfect in its own uncertain way. I don't want to regret anything, he confessed, and that starts with me owning my happiness. With you. And I'll be right beside you, Maria replied softly, squeezing his hand again, reaffirming their bond. Then, abruptly, his father stepped forward, his voice a thunderstorm raging. You're making a mistake that you'll never recover from. I want to support you if you choose this path. Ethan took a deep breath and met his father's furious gaze with determination. I don't need your support anymore. As soon as the words escaped, he felt an avalanche of fear flood back, but it was quickly replaced with the warmth of the crowd's support, bolstering his resolve. Ethan, Maria whispered, her eyes wide, urging him to think of the consequences. But there was no turning back now. The exchange between father and son had become a spectacle, the primal, raw conflict pulling the audience closer as emotional stakes soared. A whisper of doubt flickered. What if this was it? What if he was exiled from the life he knew, from the comforts of his upbringing? Suddenly, his heart felt heavy again. Ethan turned towards Maria, seeing her there, steadfast and bright. Her unwavering presence anchored him. Maybe, just maybe, leaving everything behind wouldn't he mean starting from scratch. Perhaps it meant beginning everything anew, together. His resolve surged again. No more fear. This is who I am. The crowd erupted into a chorus of cheers, claps merging into an anthem of acceptance. In that moment, it felt as though every heart in the room beat in unison with his, empowering him. But just as hope soared, his father's expression darkened, an ominous storm brewing in his eyes. You'll see, Ethan. You'll regret this. I'll make sure of it. Ethan's heart thudded ominously in his chest. The challenge hung between them like a chasm, one he had thrown himself into willingly. But as he stood with Maria, a fiery determination ignited within. The future loomed before him, bright, unknown, filled with both dread and promise. As the crowd continued to rally behind them, he knew the battle ahead was not just with his father, but with himself. Could he truly leave the past behind and forge a new identity anchored in love? Would the acceptance he sought come easily, or would the weight of old expectations follow him, like a shadow he could not escape? The silent question spiraled, swirling in the air as they waited together for what came next. The energy in the auditorium was electric, buzzing with the mixed emotions swirling in the air. Ethan felt as if he was standing on the precipice of a cliff, teetering between fear and freedom. He could almost taste the anticipation, a bittersweet thrill that mingled with his uncertainty. "Dad, listen," he began, trying to reach out through the chaos, but the words felt stuck, like they were lodged in his throat. He had never spoken up like this before, and the natural instinct to please was still clawing at him, but he fought it back. This wasn't just about him anymore. He thought of Maria, the encouragement in her eyes fortifying his heart. "Enough, Ethan!" his father snapped, his face contorted in rage. "You're throwing your life away. What does she truly bring to your life? A weak little girl who will drag you down." Ethan's fist clenched, instinctively wanting to protect Maria, but he kept his gaze steady. "Maria isn't weak. She's the strongest person I know. She sees me for who I really am, not what I represent." The crowd was alive now, voices rising in unison. It was an anthem of support, laced with disbelief and admiration. He could feel the warmth of their energy wrapping around him like a comforting embrace. Somehow, it gave him courage. "And you," Ethan pressed, looking back at his father, "you only see the surface, the money, the image. You think it defines me, but I'm ready to find my worth beyond that. I won't live in your shadow any longer." Maria's hand squeezed his tighter, a link that surged with promise. He could see her concern mirrored in the audience, but also trust. They were in this together, and that made the weight feel lighter. "Ethan, you don't know the consequences of your actions," his father warned, his tone cold now. "You'll lose everyone who matters. Your name will be tarnished forever." "Then let it be!" Ethan shouted, the weight of years finally breaking in that one declaration. "It's time to start climbing out of this pit you've put me in. If I lose the name, fine, but I will not lose myself." The crowd was roaring now, their enthusiasm infectious, washing away the remnants of doubt. Ethan caught glimpses of familiar faces, friends who had silently cheered him on, and even strangers who now nodded in support. It was overwhelming, yet invigorating. It was a moment he had longed for, and perhaps he never realized just how many were waiting for someone to take that leap first. "Take a step back and think about what you're doing," his father tried again, but this time it felt weak, just a desperate grasp to reel Ethan back into a world he no longer wanted. He was done with the manipulation, the guilt trips. With a deep breath that steadied him, Ethan replied, "I already have thought about it. I choose happiness, and that's something you can't take away from me." As the crowd erupted in deafening applause, Ethan felt the surge of freedom pulsating through his veins. For a moment, he lost himself in the exhilaration that washed over him like the first light of dawn after a long night. But amid the cheers, Regret still lingered in his father's eyes, deep-rooted and dangerous. Ethan's chest tightened. How far would his father go to ensure he wouldn't stray? Just as he started to truly savor the victory, his father raised a hand, silencing the audience. You think this is over? You've ignited a battle, boy. When I won to lose. Ethan's stomach knotted at the bold threat, the implications sending chills through him. He glanced at Maria, who looked back at him, her face a mix of worry and reassurance. He realized the challenge wasn't done, but merely beginning. Outside the safe confines of this moment, the world awaited uncertain and yet full of possibility. What would his father do next? What did this fight mean for Ethan and Maria as a couple? A new journey unfurled before him, one that promised to test the very foundation of their relationship, and Ethan knew that no matter the cost, he was ready to embrace it all. Could he protect what they had while standing against a storm that promised to tear everything apart? Ethan stood at the center of the auditorium, the chaotic mixture of cheers and silence swirling around him. He knew this was only the beginning. His father's words hung heavily in the air, dark and threatening, like storm clouds gathering ominously on the horizon. Every heartbeat pulsed with the realization that the world he had just taken a stand against would not let him walk away unscathed. Maria's fingers intertwined with his, a lifeline grounded in sincerity and warmth. He could feel her pulse, steady and reassuring, even as uncertainty clawed at his mind. But beneath the tension, there was a flicker of hope. We'll figure this out, she whispered, squeezing his hand tighter. Those simple words ignited a spark within him, reminding Ethan of their shared resilience. Let us get out of here, he said softly, not wanting to break the moment too severely. As they stepped into the corridor, the roar of the crowd faded. The air outside felt different, more real, as if the pressure of expectation had been momentarily lifted. But the weight of his father's gaze lingered. Ethan could almost feel it pressing against his back, a silent promise of war. What now? Maria asked, her voice almost trembling. Ethan let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. We need to plan. I can't let him intimidate me like this. Tension rolled through him, but anger was also bubbling, a fire igniting the courage he desperately needed. If he wanted to break free, he had to be strategic, he had to be alert. The two of them made their way toward the nearby park, away from the clamor of the school. The gentle rustle of leaves and the soft whisper of the wind created a cocoon of serenity. Here, under the dappled sunlight, the world seemed brighter somehow, less burdened by his father's shadow. Ethan, I believe in you, Maria said, looking up at him, her eyes shining with unwavering support. You don't have to do this alone, okay? Her words wrapped around him like a warm blanket. In this moment, surrounded by the simple beauty of nature, he worried less about the battles. He focused on what was here, now, their bond, their shared vision of a future where he would not be molded by external pressures. I need to tell my mom, Ethan said, recalling how his mother had managed to slip the chains of their family legacy, carving a new path for herself. Maybe she could guide him, help him navigate the treacherous waters ahead. Maria nodded. That's a good idea. But remember, your father will do anything to control the narrative. He wants to keep the upper hand. Ethan's heart raced at her insight. The reality of the impending conflict stirred inside him a pulsating mix of fear and determination. I won't hide anymore. Not from anyone. Hours passed, and as they sat on a bench overlooking the lake, Ethan felt the calmness of the water settle his thoughts. He closed his eyes, imagining a future carved by his choices, not dictated by power or wealth. Hope surged through him, growing stronger with each second. Ethan! A voice called, cutting through the peaceful haziness of his thoughts. He opened his eyes abruptly to see Taylor, one of his childhood friends, jogging toward them. What's up? Ethan asked, adrenaline kicking in at the sudden intrusion. I heard the speech. You really said it all, didn't you? But you better watch your back. Rumor has it, your dad's already plotting. Taylor hesitated as if weighing his words, concern etched across his brow. What do you mean? Ethan's throat tightened, every instinct on alert now. Taylor leaned in, lowering his voice. I don't know the details, but people are saying he might pull some strings to get to you or even to Maria. A chill skated down Ethan's spine. The battle lines had been drawn, and his father's wrath would not only affect him. Maria was now in his crosshairs too. Turning to Maria, Ethan saw the same dawning realization on her face, fear mixed with determination. She would stand with him, no matter what. But what if he couldn't protect her from the storm brewing? Let us prepare ourselves, he said firmly, the stakes now clear. They needed a strategy, not just for themselves, but for everyone they loved. As twilight descended, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, Ethan felt the weight of his father's threat loom ever closer. They had to stay ahead of the game. He could feel it in his bones. This was just the beginning of a fight that would define him and potentially tear him apart. Is there more to this than you're telling me? Maria asked, her eyes narrowing slightly, echoing the intensity of the moment. Ethan took a deep breath, his mind swirling with possibilities. I think we're about to uncover things that could shift the entire balance. I just need to know if you're with me. Her gaze pierced through the encroaching darkness, filled with resolve. Always. But as they shared that determined look, Ethan couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that the real battle had yet to unfold. Would they be strong enough to face what was coming? He could feel the darkness tightening around them. What kind of power did his father hold that would stop them before they even began? Ethan's heart raced as he and Maria made their way back toward the school. The whispers of Taylor were still fresh in his mind, rolling over him like dark waves threatening to pull him under. Ethan, slow down! Maria called out, her voice a mixture of urgency and concern. He paused, turning to face her, feeling the weight of the moment. She looked so small against the backdrop of the looming school building. I'm sorry. He took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure. I can't shake this feeling that time is running out. If my dad really is plotting, we need to get ahead of it. Okay, but we can't just rush in blindly. We need a plan, she countered. Her eyes were wide, earnest, pushing through the nerves that intertwined with his own. He nodded, appreciation flowing through him. To have someone who could see beyond the chaos, who could ground him while steering him back toward reason, felt invaluable. You're right. We can't be reckless. They settled back on a bench outside the school, the last rays of sunlight illuminating their faces. The world around them seemed oblivious to the storm brewing in Ethan's life. He glanced at Maria, who was pulling her hair into a ponytail, showing off her determined expression, one that fueled his motivation. Let us go to my house, he said suddenly, urgency spilling from his voice. My mom is home, and she might have some insight. She has been through her own battles with him. Maybe she knows how to fight back. I'm with you, Maria replied. Her simple affirmation lit a spark in his chest. As they walked, ideas began to formulate in his mind like a puzzle being pieced together. When they arrived at his house, the familiar walls felt oddly comforting. The living room was empty, but a faint aroma of baked goods hinted that his mother had been busy. Mom? Ethan called out. The sound of footsteps and a soft voice answered back. I'm in the kitchen. They entered to find her putting cookies onto a cooling rack. The warmth and tenderness of that moment momentarily drowned out the weight of their mission. Hi, sweethearts. I made your favorite, she exclaimed, her smile genuine and bright. Thanks, Mom, Ethan said, but he couldn't shake the feeling of doom. We need to talk about Dad. Her smile faded, and she leaned down slightly, giving him her full attention. What's wrong? Ethan felt the words forming a knot in his throat. There was an instinct to protect her, to shield her from the realities of his father's manipulations. But he couldn't hide anymore. I might be in trouble. He's angry. After my speech today, I know he'll retaliate. I overheard something. Is Maria okay? She interrupted, concern flooding her features as she focused on Maria instead. I'm fine. I want to help Ethan. We need a plan, Maria interjected, stepping forward with determination. Ethan could sense his mother weighing the gravity of their situation. Okay, let us sit down. We need to think this through. Secrecy is key. The three of them settled at the kitchen table, the ambience shifting from lightheartedness to strategic discussion. Slowly, Ethan poured out his heart fears, worries, and his burning desire to be free from his father's suffocating grasp. His mother listened intently, her brow furrowing as the details unfolded. "You're right to be concerned. Your father can be ruthless when it comes to retaining his power." She took a deep breath. "But you are not him. You stand for something: truth, integrity." Her words were like a balm, soothing the aching tension in his chest. "Mom, what did you do when you felt trapped?" Ethan asked, leaning forward. She hesitated. "I lived in fear for a long time, until I realized that fear would only give him more control. You have to take the power back. Show him you want to be silent." As the conversation deepened, Ethan felt emboldened. They discussed next steps, gathering their thoughts into a tangible plan. But just as clarity began to form, the doorbell rang, echoing through the tense atmosphere. Ethan's heart dropped. Who could it be at this hour? His mother exchanged a worried glance with him. "I'll get it," she said, slowly walking towards the door, uncertainty hanging thick in the air. "Mom, wait!" he cried, but before he could stop her, she turned the handle and the door swung open. The sight that greeted them stole the breath from Ethan's lungs. There stood his father, a dark cloud overshadowing the porch with an intensity that sent shivers down his spine. "Evening, everyone. We need to talk," his father said, a foreboding smile creeping across his face. Ethan's pulse quickened as adrenaline surged through him. This was at the moment he feared and had prepared for. Would he be able to stand his ground, or would his father's power crush him once more? The battle had just begun, and Ethan could almost taste the tension in the air. It was electrifying and terrifying all at once. "Would you like to hear what I brought for you?" his father continued, stepping further into the light, as if preparing to unveil a dark surprise. Ethan's stomach dropped. What kind of revelation was about to turn his life upside down again? Ethan's father stepped inside, his presence suffocating the air like thick smoke. The room seemed to darken around them, as if the very walls understood the threat he posed. Ethan felt a tickle of fear wash over him, but he fought to maintain his composure. Maria stood beside him, her posture taut like a drawn bow, ready to leap into action if needed. "What's this all about?" Ethan's mother asked, trying to keep her voice steady, but Ethan could hear that slight tremor. She was scared. They all were. His father tilted his head, allowing that unsettling smile to stretch across his face. "I've come to clear the air. There are things you don't understand," he said, stepping closer to where they had gathered, the kitchen table acting as a fragile barrier between his world and theirs. "Things I don't understand?" Ethan echoed, trying to keep the disbelief from cracking his voice. "You mean things you've been hiding from us?" "Always so quick to judge," his father replied dismissively, dismissing Ethan's words with a wave of his hand. "But you don't realize your actions have consequences. You wanted to shine? Here's your opportunity." With a dramatic flair, he reached into his coat pocket and revealed a sleek black folder. He placed it on the table, the sound echoing through the kitchen like a gunshot. "This contains everything." Ethan swallowed hard, fighting against the rising tide of anxiety. "What is it?" he demanded, desperate to understand. "Your mother thinks she can protect you," his father said, glancing at her with a smug smirk. "But she has no idea what's really going on. They'll all come for you, Ethan. Because you have something they want." "What are you talking about?" Ethan's voice was a shaky mixture of disbelief and anger. "I'm not afraid of you or anyone else." "Oh, you will be," he said, leaning in closer, each word dripped with malice. "Especially when the truth comes out. I'm not alone in this." "Dad, just stop." Ethan's mother interrupted, stepping forward, hands clenched at her sides, her voice rising. "You're manipulating him. You've always done that." His father turned to her, fiery eyes darkening further. "You don't know the half of it. They will expose the family's secrets one way or another. You think he's safe under your wing?" Ethan felt a wave of sickness wash over him. What could his father possibly mean? What secrets? And just as curiosity swirled within him, dread coiled tighter around it, squeezing the air from his lungs. Enough games. What's in that folder? Ethan demanded again, his heart racing. His father smirked, the glint in his eye revealing some unholy pleasure. Open it. You'll find that everything you cherish might just be a lot closer to chaos than you think. Ethan exchanged a quick glance with Maria. She nodded, fire blazing in her eyes. She was ready for anything. Gathering strength, he reached for the folder, knowing this was the moment everything could shift. As he flipped it open, his breath caught in his throat. Photos, documents, everything spun around him like a whirlwind. What he saw nearly knocked him off his feet. Images of familiar faces, connections to his father's dealings he had never imagined. Not just business but something darker, something that could entangle him in a world he never asked for. Look at that, his father's voice slithered through the chaos. You're part of this now. Ethan's mind whirled. He felt panic rising like bile in his throat. Questions flooded his mind. Was he implicated in this web of deceit? How could he protect himself? His mom and Maria? We need to discuss this, his mother said, trying to regain control, but the tension was heavy, like a storm about to break. Ethan, feeling pinned under the weight of his father's words and the shocking evidence laid out before him, gripped the folder tighter. The air grew thicker, the moment intense. Dad, you won't get away with this, Ethan said, willing himself to have a voice above the storm. We're stronger than you think. His father raised an eyebrow, entertained by Ethan's bravado. We'll see, son. We'll see. The atmosphere crackled charged with uncertainty as Ethan steeled himself. He had to prepare not just for the fight ahead but for the truth that lay ahead. And as the door closed behind his father, leaving them in the silence that thrummed with tension, Ethan's mind raced. What would they uncover together? What was his next move? Because he felt the weight of the world hanging in the balance, teetering just out of reach. How could he possibly be ready for what came next? Would he find the courage to face his father, and even more terrifying, the truth about himself? Ethan stood in the quiet of the kitchen, the folder's weight heavy in his hands. He glanced at Maria, her eyes alight with determination, steadying him as darkness loomed over their futures. He swallowed hard, grappling with the unsettling reality laid out before him. Would he allow his father's presence to tether him to the past, or could he finally step into a world filled with honesty and hope? Maria's voice broke through his spiraling thoughts. Whatever this is, we'll face it together. Her unwavering support felt like a lifeline, anchoring him in turbulent waters. He nodded slowly, letting resolve bloom in his heart. They wouldn't be confined to shadows any longer. With a deep breath, he turned to his mother. We need to be proactive. Whatever we find out from this folder, we can't let it take us down. I won't let it. She nodded, her expression softening as she saw the fire in his eyes. You're right, Ethan. We'll figure this out together. Just like we always have. Carefully, he examined the contents of the folder again, trying to pull meaning from the tangled web before him. The images screamed of hidden affiliations, ties he had been blissfully unaware of, a stark reminder of the price of silence and complicity. We need to show this to someone credible, he said, urgency threading through his words. Someone who can help us unravel this. Who do you have in mind? Maria asked, leaning closer, fear and determination blending in her gaze. Ethan thought of his friend Marcus, someone who had always had his back, intuitive and discreet. Marcus had experience with navigating the upper echelons of society, and had a few contacts that could guide them. Marcus. He knows people who can help. Then let us go now, Maria urged, her intensity igniting a spark of action. Just as they made their way out, Ethan's mother stopped them with a hesitant hand. Wait. Be careful, okay? Your father won't let this go lightly. Her voice cracked slightly, a clear reminder of how insidious the situation had become. He stepped closer, taking her hands in his. I promise we'll be careful. I'm not afraid anymore. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows as they set off. A sense of urgency pushed them through the darkened streets. The external world felt bracing, the chill of evening settling in, but inside, Ethan felt a growing warmth of determination. As they reached Marcus's apartment, his heart raced with anticipation and anxiety. Ethan knocked, and after a moment, Marcus opened the door. Instantly, he sensed the gravity of the situation in Ethan's eyes and the fierce determination framing Maria's face. "What's going on?" Marcus asked, ushering them in. "Everything," Ethan began, rushing to lay bare the folder and its revelations. Each page turned felt like exposing vulnerabilities and fears, yet beneath it thrummed the power of self-acceptance. "My father is involved in something deeper than I knew. We need your help to untangle it and protect ourselves." A quiet tension built as Marcus reviewed the documents, his brow furrowing deeper with each line. "This is big, Ethan. Really big. I know a few people who can assist, but you all need to be prepared for any blowback. Your father, he just backed down." "I understand," Ethan said, feeling the weight of the risks before him. "But I refuse to live under his shadow any longer." Marcus nodded, studying both Ethan and Maria. "You're stronger than you realize, Ethan. Let's get a plan in place." As they strategized, a powerful camaraderie emerged. They gathered intel, plotted possible angles, and assessed strengths and weaknesses. Each passing hour united them more deeply, solidifying the bond they shared. When they finally wrapped up their discussion, exhaustion tinged with hope draped over them. The night was now fully settled in, the stars piercing through the dark. "Whatever happens next, we take it one step at a time," Ethan reminded them, looking from Marcus to Maria, who had remained steadfast by his side. Together, Maria affirmed, her voice resonating with warmth. That night brought more than a strategy. It unearthed a sense of purpose within Ethan. He felt the chains of his past crumbling as self-doubt faded softly in the face of determination. They were no longer just aiming for survival, he was finally learning how to fight for the life he wanted. Days turned into weeks as they prepared for the storm ahead, uncovering truths and establishing a network of support. When Marcus received word of an influential journalist who could help blow the lid off the web of deceit, it felt like a glimmer of light breaking through the oppressive clouds above him. "Now's our moment," Marcus declared one evening in their gathering. "It's time to pull the trigger." Standing on the precipice of his decision, Ethan's heart soared with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. He could feel the shift in the air, a promise of release as he prepared to confront the truth of his father's darkness. "Let us do it," he said, his gaze steady and resolute. "For us. For everyone who has been silenced." And so their plan took flight, an unstoppable force fueled by the power of connection and truth. They rallied a team, driven not by whispers of fear, but by a steadfast desire for justice, a desire to rise above the ashes of the past. When the day arrived to share their findings, anticipation buzzed in the air. Facing the world outside, Ethan grasped Maria's hand, a tangible tether as they emerged into the light. They stood together united, heartened by their shared resolve. With each step into the unknown, he felt himself unearthing a new identity, one forged in resilience and love. Whatever came next, he knew they would face it together, embracing a destiny that was truly their own. As they prepared to reveal the truth, Ethan felt a surge of determination wash over him. He was not just a billionaire's son, he was more than someone defined by wealth or status. He was Ethan Clarke, ready to embrace a future steeped in authentic connections, a future where love reigned over fear, and hope illuminated even the darkest path. And in that moment, with Maria's hand in his, he took the leap he had long avoided, letting the world embrace him as he finally embraced himself. The truth would set them free. Now, it's your turn to take a leap with us. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really helps us reach more hearts. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of rallying behind the journey.